listening to the Terrific Teacherpreneur, a podcast for teachers looking to grow a successful online business. Your host, Alex, was able to transform her Teachers Pay Teachers store from a small side hustle into a profitable full-time business. She now helps other teachers do the same. Listen along for actionable tips and helpful wisdom about business and marketing as a teacherpreneur. Here's your host, Alex.
Hey there, I am so excited about this episode. I finally have a guest onto the podcast this week and for the next episode as well. And I have not had a guest on this podcast for like a year and a half. Thank you, Lily. That's all her fault. My toddler takes up all my time. And it's really nice to just honestly, just to have someone back on, to better have someone to chat to. I actually had somebody give me feedback. They once said, it would be nice if there was more stuff for seasoned sellers. You know, there's always a lot of tips for newbies on most TPT podcasts. And I had that in mind. I think it would be really great to chat to Heather again, who's someone that's been on the podcast previously, because she is a really veteran seller. She's been on TPT for so long. And it's just like, it's really nice to chat to someone about kind of seasoned seller topics. But also in this episode, we are really going to be talking about navigating a decline in sales since personalized search and how things have been going there. So I really hope you enjoy this episode if you are a more seasoned seller. So let's dive in. Hey, Heather, welcome to the Terrific Teacherpreneur podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I actually really appreciate you coming back on the show because you were on the show. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for having me, Alex. I truly appreciate it. This is always so fun chatting with you.
Yeah, it's for me, but I'm always really grateful when guests join because I'm like, this is you taking time out of your day to do this, and it's really helpful to other sellers, and it's a very generous thing to do. So I'm always very grateful. So thank you. But
I could talk TPT all day, so we're all good.
Yeah, it's nice to chat. But first, for people that didn't listen to that original episode, and that was in 2021, maybe you could just do a little quick intro about you, so we know who you are, as a seller or as a teacher, as a person. Just go ahead and tell us.
All right. Yeah. So my name is Heather, but most in the online space know me as HoJo from HoJo's Teaching Adventures. And I always get well, do we call you Heather or HoJo? And I honestly don't care. I get called Joe and HoJo more for my immediate family than I do Heather. I remember being 8 and getting mad at my grandpa because I didn't think he knew my real name. So, just hey you works too. But I have been a TPT seller. I joined in late 2009, became premium in 2011, and then have been doing this more or less full-time since 2015. So I'm going on a decade as a full-time seller and just reached my 15-year milestone as a TPT seller. So kind of cool. Actually, that was just last month. So yeah.
That's impressive. That's really, really impressive. I'm not going to lie.
It's crazy. Yeah, it was super crazy. I realized it and I was like, wait, what? 15 years is a long time.
Yeah. I'd have to do the math for a second to remember how long I've been on. But I was 20 when you went full-time was kind of when I was starting. But it flies by and you're like, oh my goodness, am I coming up to 10 years? Flies by and it's so fun and you forget that but yeah, it's crazy.
Well, and yeah, that's so funny that you make the 10-year comment because my son was born in 2015 and that's the year I quit being a principal to stay home. So he'll be 10 this spring or winter, I guess, depending how you look at it. But anyway, I'm coming up on 10 years of being home and it's just crazy to think about. So a lot has happened in the last decade.
I'm really grateful for TPT, for those of us that have had a chance to do it full time, even though I'm not really doing it full time now, to be like, oh wow, this opportunity that we had, I am very grateful for that. But on the flip side, obviously, there are negatives too. So actually one of the things I wanted to chat about first was just, maybe you could share a little bit about your more recent experiences as a seller these last couple of years, especially since personalized search, since a lot of people have been experiencing a decline. I think it'd be really nice for people to listen that have the same experience to be able to kind of hear how you've gone with it, what's been happening with you. And it's nice to just listen to other people's experiences, I think, so you don't feel so alone. So tell us how you've been going in these last few years with all the changes and everything.
Yeah, so I just hit the 2-year mark of no growth whatsoever, of consistent, so personalized search hit me hard in October of 22. And every month since then, I've been down from the previous year. So yeah, literally 2 years of being down. My 2024 sales look like, if I'm lucky, they'll match my 2019 sales. I kind of know where I'm at. The start of 24, I was down 40% month over month. And that was after 23 already being down 20 to 30% month over month. So yeah, it's honestly not been good. Now on the flip side, as bad as it is, it's weird. I have this like calm and peace about it. Like I don't like it, but yet I'm not in panic mode, which is unique. I don't even really know how to explain it or tell you why or anything else. I've just got this peace that like things are going to be okay, and that this is why I had an emergency fund set up and things like that. So it's a weird place to be in, to be like, oh my goodness, like the world is ending and my whole business that I've worked for 15 years on is falling apart, and yet be like, nah, we're just going to pivot and it'll fall into place and be okay. Or, I mean, what's worst case scenario? I go get a 9-to-5 job, and I don't want to do that, but I certainly could too. So it's this weird in between, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it.
That's a good attitude to have, though, because one of those things that's quite out of your control. So being constantly worried about it, like affecting your mental health, further, it's really sad and it's frustrating. But did you find that when it was all first happening, though, that you felt differently? Is this more of a calm now, or have you always been kind of this way since it happened?
I've had a little bit of just this peace the whole time. If anything, it's subsiding a little bit, because like I said, I'm a big believer in you should have like a 6-month emergency fund. So I had a 6-month emergency fund in my business and in my personal bank accounts. And now I'm to the point of, okay, those are almost gone. I mean, it took me 2 years to go through 6 months. But so there's a little bit of, I don't even want to say panic, but it's serious now, if that makes any sort of sense. So I don't know. I've had a peace the whole time. Just now it's like, all right, like feed her to the fire, figure something out, pivot, make one of these ways I'm trying to diversify work or something. So yeah, it's a weird place, but I don't know. I've been pretty calm throughout, I guess.
It's really good to hear, though, that it's not been too emotionally upsetting or anything like that.
No, I definitely ebb and flow a little bit, but nothing like crazy.
We all navigate these things differently. I think it depends on our own anxiety and our own levels of things. I've had some iffy months this year that have been down, and I've been kind of chill about it. But I think it depends on how much you look at your sales, how much you fixate on it. And I try to sort of not look at it too much. But I was confronting when in Australia we do our tax like mid-year, and so I got my tax return back, and it wasn't really as high as I was expecting it, because I was like, oh, okay, so those couple of months did impact things. That was kind of confronting. But when I try not to look at it too much, because I actually find that just really upsets me, and I don't know that that's helpful or not to anyone listening, but sometimes you have to remove yourself from fixating on it. Like otherwise, I would totally spiral all the time about things. So
yeah, and that's what when certain things, like what was I just doing the other day, and I don't even remember. It was just this week. I was doing something and I just got mad. And I had to just go outside and go for a walk. I was like, nope, like I can't change it. I can't, I'm doing what I can. I'm trying to diversify. But yeah, I just went out and seriously went for a walk and then stood and looked at the sun for 5 minutes. I'm like, I need more vitamin D. That's how this is going to work.
Yeah, I think you've already mentioned the emergency fund thing, which I think is a really good suggestion, because obviously if someone's listening and they've been in that, they're having the experience you've had, it's not really helpful now to say, oh, you should have had an emergency fund. But for anyone that's listening, maybe is a newer seller or something like it, it's a really good tip to have to make sure that you're not overly reliant on TPT if you go full time or something. And then, would you say there's anything else that you would throw in? Like if you could go back in time, like you knew this was going to happen, would you have done anything else differently? Is there any other sort of wisdom that's important to share other than just financially, like having that little nest egg, I guess?
Yeah, I guess I'm like the other financial piece for me, I'm very careful about debt. Aside from my mortgage, I really have no debt. But then the other thing is I kind of wish I would have diversified sooner. And I don't want people to just go and chase every shiny object. But I mean, TPT was making up, I want to say like 95% of my income, where now I think I have it down to something more like 70 or 80. So I'm growing the others. But am I really growing I am growing the others. They have more than, I want to say they've quadrupled in the last 2 years. But then TPT has dropped so much too. So it's hard to give percentages, if that makes sense, when we all know how much. TPT is like 50% down for me from what it had been in my best year. So yeah, but I do wish I had done some sort of diversifying better earlier on. So that would be my other thing. But to choose where you're going to diversify, because we could go down so many different rabbit trails and it can just be too much. So I think people should diversify, but I want to caution them too, to not just take on every little thing. So yeah, I I guess
That's a
that would
good
be my
little segue.
idea.
Let's talk about diversifying. That was one of the questions I was going to ask anyway, so let's do it
Okay.
now. So tell us, when you figured out things were going a bit downhill. When did you start? What did you first do? What kind of things have you taken on? And then, if there's anything you've learned along the way, like, oh, I did too many, or this was a flop, or let's talk about diversifying and how it went for you.
Yeah. So I started an Etsy shop. I want to say it was in fall of 22, right when personalized search was going, I don't know, whenever. It wasn't that very great there when the personalized search was happening. So I started an Etsy shop. And I want to say in the last 2 years, I've made a combined $300 over there. Now, part of that I think is Etsy. Part of that, much larger part of it is I don't know that I did it well or did it right. I did buy an Etsy SEO workbook, I guess you would call it. And I don't know. I didn't put my effort there. And I mean, $300 clearly speaks for itself. Like, as I'm saying it, I'm like, I should almost just shut that down. But I say that, and every time I say that, I get like a $50 sale in a month. And I'm like, because just a couple months ago, I was only at $250. So I'm like, well, I just had a $50 sale and that pays the water bill or something. So I already had my WooCommerce store set up. So that's been really nice. I still get daily sale there. I mean, but a lot of my products are $2 and $3. So there's literally months where I only make $50 to $100 there. I think I've had $1,000 month in my WooCommerce store. I did just a year ago start doing Amazon workbooks via their KDP platform, and I'm really liking that. I just hit 500 workbooks sold, which I figure for, I want to say 11 months is not terrible. It's definitely been a learning curve, but it's been fun. So that's almost been more of a creative release and like a fun thing than I'm not making great money over there because I'm also advertising, and it took me a while to pick up on how to keep that average cost per sale down. I was spending way too much to start, but I took a class by Crystal. She's got a print on demand class specifically for teachers, paid teachers, sellers. And I loved it. I totally recommend Crystal's class. She was fabulous to work with. I'm in her monthly membership, but for me, it's just more been fun too. And I'm trying to think. I also offer coaching. I do VA work still, which is a little weird, I know, but I have 3 clients currently, very, very part-time. I don't know that I do more than 4 hours a month for the 3 of them combined. So I don't know. I'm just odds and ends. Last spring, I ended up working at our local school as the elementary gifted teacher 1 day a week. So that was actually really fun to go back into the school, and I got to work with my son, which was super fun. And I saw K to 5. I saw all the groups of kids for 30 to 45 minutes once a week. So it was just fun to get back into the classroom. We moved this summer, so I've been subbing just a little bit at the school too. So I almost feel like that's just more of a sanity, get out and meet people. It's definitely not the money. It's not what you would necessarily think of from a diversifying standpoint. But on the flip side, it gets me into the classrooms. It also helps me realize, even though I've been out for 10 years, that a lot hasn't really changed. And I mean, I'm in different schools than I ever taught in, but kids are kids. They're still acting up. They still need help with their math facts. They're still struggling to write a proper paragraph. I know a lot of people think we can get irrelevant when we've been out so long. And it's yeah, no, some of the basics stay the same. Things change, yes, and their interests are different, and the technology is a little bit different, but kids are still kids. So I feel like that stress that I hear a lot of veteran sellers talk about, oh, I've been out for 4 years or 8 years or whatever. I'm nah, you're still relevant. Go volunteer if you can, but that's been really good. So yeah, I've kind of diversified in a lot of different ways, and yet I'm not sure that any of them have been super successful. I guess I also do affiliate marketing. This one's weird, but I just bought 2 horses too. So I was raised on a small quarter horse ranch. So we'll be raising babies here in a couple of years, which won't be a huge moneymaker, but I'm well, if that keeps my stress and anxiety to a minimum, that's worth something too. So yeah, just a lot of everything, I guess.
That's a little bit of what diversifying is, though. I don't think it's just taking on one thing and then giving it your all and replacing TPT with something else. It's alongside TPT, you try a couple of things. You've actually done some really interesting different things from what most people say, because most people say, oh, I just got all my resources and threw them up on, and then they list a bunch of other marketplaces like TeachShare or whatever, Classful or whatever. Did you ever consider doing those? And like that didn't interest you, or would you ever do those things? Like, just curious around the platform.
So I'm gonna like really date myself with TPT here now. So I did sign up and I was on Teacher's Notebook and EduSense way back when. I couldn't even tell you when both of those went under. I hardly had any sales from those. So when the other sites kind of popped up, I was like, if the other two didn't work, if Etsy's really not working for me, like I would rather just promote them to go to my own store. I've got the WooCommerce shop set up. So I just, don't get me wrong, I'm not telling people not to do it. Like I think we all have to choose what makes the most sense for our business. But I just knew that the time uploading in another spot when I already have TPT and my WooCommerce store was enough for me. And even the Etsy shop, I have 700 resources on over 700 on TPT now, but the Etsy shop only has maybe 50. I basically took the best sellers from each month and listed them. And I mean, obviously I could do more with it, but I took the bundles and the best sellers and just called it a day. But yeah, so no, I didn't want to go the other route, right or wrong, but that's kind of the choice I've made for now.
Yeah, I'm kind of similar. I have a Woo shop as well. Did the same thing. I don't have like half of my resources on there. I kind of went for slightly more best-selling stuff. And I find that really difficult to maintain. Like I did an episode about this a while back, and I still have like a post-it notes on my desk right now of like update Woo listing for there's a bunch of products where I've done things on TPT and I haven't done it on Woo, and I actually find it really hard to do both. And that's just two. So I can't even imagine taking on a bunch of other platforms. It sounds like too much work. Too much maintenance. Well, because I do a lot of, SEO tweaks, so I randomly change a price or something. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
yes, that's where my VA comes in. Like she is a godsend. So I have one, I guess technically I have two like super part-time VAs. One is working 5 hours a week for me. And I have a Woo update spreadsheet. So if I make a change on TPT, as long as I throw it in the spreadsheet, she takes care of it. She's fabulous at that. And I despise that kind of work. Like you said, I would have the list. The fact that I can just make the list and it's magically done and I pay her once a week and life is great. So yeah, she's been a huge help there, but I've often forgot to update a price in my Etsy store. And then I'm always paranoid that TPT is going to get mad because not intentionally, but I'll have something listed at $3 and another listed at $3.25 for a week or two, or maybe a month if I forget. And I'm like, they're going to get mad because the prices are different. I'm not allowed to do that. And thankfully, it's never been an issue, but I don't want them to ever think that I'm intentionally undercutting, in one place or another. So it's definitely something I try and stay on top of.
Yeah. With VAs, who else do you have and like what else are they doing for you? That's always a good thing to discuss, I think, to kind of help seasoned sellers and those things. Yeah, tell us about your like hiring situation.
Okay, yeah. So I've got the one gal that's 5 hours a week, and it's a lot of just those little admin tasks, and it's nothing big. Keeping the Woo store updated is a big thing. She's done this lady. I hired her just after my daughter was born, and my daughter's almost 8, so we've been together almost 8 years. At one point, she was working 40 hours a week for me. Between her life situation, my finances, just TPT not doing as well. She's down to 5. She's been 5 hours a week now for, I want to say 2 or maybe even 3 years. She'll do anything. She'll post on social media for me. She has completely taken over Tailwind to do my Pinterest for me. There's aspects of it. Like Pinterest is where it's been at for me for a long time. So I still write my own like descriptions and stuff, but she can go in and schedule. So yeah, 8 years in, I actually just sent her like her Christmas bonus and everything so she could go out and do her holiday shopping. I guess I don't know exactly when she does that, but just because I love her. And if she ever leaves, I'm going to be so sad. So I have her. And then I have one other gal that does a video a week for me. I am terrible at it. Her prices are very reasonable. And it just lets me, one of my goals for this year was to get up on TikTok, which don't go look at it. It's not good, but they're out there. So I've been doing more videos on TikTok and more reels and YouTube shorts and stuff. I was just like, okay, I know video has been a thing for a while. I was just very slow to jump on that bandwagon. So yeah, anyway, that's the second person. She does TikTok. And then I guess technically I have a third person. My mom does my bookkeeping.
Okay. Yeah,
it takes me like hours every month just because I hate doing dishes and I would rather go do the dishes than do my bookkeeping. So I pay my mom and it takes her like 30 minutes a month to do everything. So yeah, I guess I have the 3 VAs then technically. So nothing too serious. I want to say total. I mean, the one's 20 hours a month, the one's 4 videos a month, and I don't think my mom works an hour a month. So it's pretty much me, but it works pretty well anyway.
I think that will probably be what most sellers would have experienced with these last few years, the decline. I think it would have hurt the VA community a little bit. But if you were having all these full-time employees or people doing quite a lot of like substantial hours, and then your sales drop, it's hard to justify paying those people anymore. So it can be really tricky. But I think it's nice that you kept people on even just for a small amount of time. Just a few little things that kind of makes the difference still. So you're not doing literally everything, but it's good. I think what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up this episode. And then for our little next part 2, I want to chat to you about like TPT and marketing and stuff. We've talked about the diversifying, but I kind of want to ask you about like how you've navigated, optimizing your store, doing marketing in order to like help out with the sales and stuff. So, but thank you for coming on for this episode.
Yes. We will see you soon.
Okay, so this is the end of part 1, but don't worry. The next episode, you're going to hear more of me continuing to chat with Heather. We're going to be talking more about TPT and marketing and how she's navigated things. So definitely tune back in for that next episode. But I will be putting, for this week and the next episode, I will be putting some links in the show notes. And we'll put a link so you can check out Heather's previous episode in the podcast. Back in 2021, she talked about hiring. It was an amazing episode. There's a lot of golden nuggets in there, so you can check that out. And for both of these episodes, I'm going to put some links in the show notes for Heather so you can, check things out with her. But anyway, we will see you in the next episode. I hope you have a terrific day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Terrific Teacherpreneur. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate that effort. Come back for more actionable tips and helpful wisdom in the next episode with your host, Alex. Until then.